Hello, my lovely listeners. I'm Dr. Mary Barson.
And I'm Dr. Lucy Burns. Welcome to this episode of Real Health and Weight Loss.
Hello, lovely listeners. Dr. Mary here, and I am thrilled today to be joined by a very special guest, our fabulous low-carb friend, Dr. Penny Figtree. Dr. Penny is a fantastic low-carb GP. She gave our inaugural speech at Sydney Low Carb Roadshow, and it just set the scene so fabulously. Dr. Penny Figtree is a wonderful resource and expert on all things low carb. And how are you today, lovely one?
I'm very well, thank you, lovely Dr. Mary, and I'm very happy to be here and to be chatting to you, the stars, the Low Carb Roadshow stars taking on the world.
Thank you.
You'll have to do a tour of the world soon.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. Yeah, first step Australia, second step world domination. Yeah. We're on our way.
You are. You're amazing.
You'll have to come with us.
Okay, I'll see that.
So you told me earlier, just as we were chatting offline, that you're feeling a bit angry. Well, no. Before we talk about how you're angry, could you tell our beautiful listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got into low carb and what you do?
Okay, I'd love to. Well, I'm sort of a zealot. I'm your low carb zealot because I've been in general practice a long time and I've been trying to help my patients. I've been watching them get sicker and sicker. They hit 40 and we start prescribing drugs, and I've tried to help them by changing their lifestyle, but nothing ever worked, and we just end up with more pills. And I really did try everything. So I used to try the 5-2, Michael Mosley's 5-2. I even tried to get them to do Voltalongo's 5-day fast. I was all into this stuff, but nothing ever worked. And in the end, I said, look, just try not to put on weight and let's try and keep your weight the same. And that was where I'd got to sort of acceptance. And then one day I stumbled across the carbohydrate insulin model of obesity, and it made so much sense to me. All of a sudden, it's the nutrients that you eat are affecting your hunger, and if you just pick the right nutrients, you'll be full. So I figured out how to do it. And one day I met a new patient. She was in our emergency bay. She'd come in with palpitations. And I was told to assess her. And I said to her, would you like to try and lose some weight? I've got this diet that I think might help. And so that's the first time I ever did this, someone I'd never met before. And she did amazingly. So she went from 110 kilos down to 79 kilos. And within a week, she felt fantastic. And I kept crying. She'd come back, I'd put her on the scales, we'd burst into tears. And she just got better and better. And I kept each patient, it just worked. Like nothing had ever worked. It was like, this is incredible. And there's no other diet where you get stopped at the basketball stadium by a parent, an ex-patient saying, I love that diet you gave me, it's changed my life. Or you get your eyes checked and the optometrist says, a lot of my patients tell me, that you've changed their life. And this is by telling them not to eat grains, potatoes and sugars. Like, it's so easy. So then you become a psychopath and you start, driving everyone crazy. And so now that's all I do, because I just think, oh, gosh, it's so fun. It's so exciting. And, of course, not everyone can do it, but a lot of people can. And it's just so exciting to do it and to stop drugs. I love it. Like when someone's really sick and they're on so many pills, I think, yay. And when they tell me they're sort of a savoury person, not a sweet person, then I know that they're going to be fine. With the sweet people, it can be a bit trickier. But yes, so that's me. I'm your low carb crazy person.
Oh, yes. No, I love that you're a low carb crazy person. Oh, I was getting like little chills then as you were telling me about how fun it makes medicine when you can get people off their medication and you can really see them change. And look, burnout in general practice in Australia, and I'm sure worldwide, is a really big issue. And I think part of it is that kind of helplessness that I used to feel, not being able to help people. Like there was just this inevitable progression towards this sort of chronic disease. And our medications didn't really help very much. But yes, I'm there with you. I've got the crazy eyes. This really can turn around people's lives. It makes being a doctor fun again. And in your presentation in Sydney, you talked about you having the crazy eyes, the low carb enthusiastic crazy eyes.
I know. Well, I stole that from Rod Taylor's wife, who's, Roddy runs Low Carb Down Under, and he'll often have a gathering for doctors at his house. And his wife said to me, the doctors turn up and they've all got the crazy eyes. And I'm sure it is because you go, oh, I can fix everything practically. I can't fix broken legs. I can't fix appendicitis. But 90% of the general practice waiting room, we can fix it with just this really easy fix. And why has no one told me this? For years, you look at high triglycerides on a blood test. Okay, I used to look at that and go, what do I do with the high triglycerides? I'd Google it, alcohol, exercise, but it never said don't eat carbohydrates and you'll fix it in 3 months. No. And then once you go...
Cut out saturated fats, maybe prescribe phenylfibrate, which is not very good. Yep.
Yes.
How quickly do you see triglycerides improve? So how quickly do you see triglycerides improve on a low-carb diet?
Look, I'd repeat it at 3 months, so I would expect it to be better by 3 months. If it's not better, you're usually not following the diet. Not always, but you can tell compliance usually by just checking that number there. Yeah, so very fast, very fast.
Yes. Oh, your patients are very, very lucky to have you in their corner, and you're a wonderful asset to the Australian medical profession. Thank you for the good work you do. So you were angry. Yeah. You were angry off camera before when we weren't recording. I'd just love to dive into this a little bit more. What was making you angry?
Well, as GPs, sometimes I think we are cheap sales representatives for the pharmaceutical industry, and we don't recognise this fact because the only tool we have in our toolbox is usually medications. And so a lot of our education is sponsored by the pharmaceutical industry. There's a company called Health Ed that sends an email out with some education for us, monthly. And yesterday was just a little vignette of a well-meaning general practitioner giving a talk about using nutritional supplements for your child with ADHD who isn't eating. So kids on ADHD medications often don't feel hungry, and so their parents worry about that. So he was suggesting using a product that we could give them called Pediasure, and the main ingredient is cornstarch. The second ingredient is sucrose, which is sugar. And then you've got some vegetable oils mixed in there too. And then they just hurl in some vitamins and minerals. So you're giving your child with a behavioural often and a concentration problem sugar and refined carbohydrate. And it's marketed as something healthy to GPs who are busy, who'll go, oh, great. So the next time someone comes in and their kid isn't eating, I'll recommend this Pediasure, which is like Ensure, from the chemist, not an egg flip. What am I, an egg flip, or like a protein shake with some eggs in it? It made me very upset, and I did actually email the GP. I found out where he works and emailed him because I thought maybe you're just innocent to this. What you're doing is just silly. But it's the same as Ensure. A friend of mine's an anaesthetist, and she gives Ensure to the patients for 3 days prior to their orthopedic surgery because she believes you're meant to have high protein. So I've sent her a million emails, poor thing. She's blocked me, I think, saying, just tell him to eat a Rissol. And I actually wrote to Stuart Phillips on Twitter. He's a professor of protein in Canada, and linked him in, and he wrote back, it's what's wrong with meat, that's just water and starch. He was completely with me that just eat a Rissol for 3 days before your knee surgery. You don't need corn starch, sucrose and some vitamins. Just take a vitamin pill. So anyway, so it makes me, I go, oh, can't people see? Can't people see? So, yeah, and I have another Ensure story. Do you want me to?
Oh, go for it. Yes, do, please. Yeah.
So Ensure is targeted to the elderly in particular. You see it at your chemist as like a healthy protein drink or supplement you can take. So one of my patients was told she had pre-diabetes. So she came to see me and I put a continuous glucose monitor on her arm to see what was going on, because she seemed like she was pretty healthy with what she was eating. And in the mornings when she had her smoothie with some Ensure powder in it, her blood sugar was going to above 11. And so once we told...
11?
Yeah. And so I just said, just stop that. And then her blood test was perfect after that. So again, it's marketed as protein, but really it's a concoction of stuff that isn't food. Like, what's wrong with food?
Yeah, real food. And there are so many better and easier ways to get protein into you than needing to buy a heavily processed, chemical concoction that's made in a factory. Ooh, yeah, that 11 for someone who's not diabetic and pre-diabetic, that's quite telling. I love the information you can get from those continuous glucose monitors.
Yes, they are amazing. They're absolutely amazing. Have you worn one?
Yes, I wore one when I was pregnant with little Maxie, who's just turned 1. I had gestational diabetes, diet controlled, almost completely diet controlled. And I had an interesting relationship with my diabetes management team. They were respectful, and also I was pretty strong at advocating for myself that this is just, I'm just eating keto. That's just what's happening. But they didn't like it. And the glucose, the continuous glucose monitor, the main use for it was I could just show them and prove to them that this was working. So that was really useful. But I did eat some sweet potato one day. I think typical mum story. I had made dinner for my family and they're not low carb, but they are real food. And so I'd made some meat and veggies and sweet potato for them. And they didn't eat their sweet potato and it's on the plate. And I didn't really think about it. I just sort of ate it. And then my blood sugar went up to 12 after eating just some sweet potato in that state of having gestational diabetes because, Max's, the little placenta, was making me very insulin resistant. Thank you, Max. They are fascinating.
Yes. They're quite popular at the moment in Port Macquarie because they're on sale. Did you know, like the Libra's $15 and the Dexcom's $35, normally $700. So I've texted all my friends, one of whom has pre-diabetes and, he isn't too interested in diet, but he wore it and ate watermelon and his blood sugar went really high and he said, I'm never eating watermelon ever again. So it teaches you, what I eat really does make a difference, particularly if you've got type 2 diabetes. It's enormous as an educational tool. Yeah, and actually it was fun for him because his best friend was wearing one and the best friend's trace is flat as a tack.
Yep.
So he can go, okay, there is something strange with me. I won't eat so many carbohydrates.
Yes, you get that immediate feedback. I love it. Circling back to the Pediasure and the kids, that made me angry too, that there's the doctor and let's just assume that they are coming at it from, the best possible angle. I honestly have not met many doctors who don't genuinely care for their patients and genuinely want what's best for them. But, education and misinformation is rife out there. I've got a daughter who can be quite fussy with her food and it can be tricky to make sure that she gets enough protein. I thought I'd just share what I do. And, people can get worked up about the feeding and watering of kids. So I'm not suggesting other people need to do this. This is just what I find is really helpful is to make her a smoothie with, fruit and cream and yogurt and milk. And I just crack an egg in it, like literally just a raw egg or sometimes 2 raw eggs and whiz it up in my little blender. And that's like an egg flip. Like that's a protein-rich smoothie that is full of real, very easily to digest protein. I also sometimes use like a good quality whey protein or pea protein powder as well. But the egg, man, it just works so well. It's not useful for me. Smoothies are not useful for me, but they can be so useful for kids. And if we were just marketing eggs to kids instead of Ensure, I think that their brains would be working a lot better.
Yes, I know. I think how tired they'll be at school because they'll be on this sugar hit from their powdery mixture from the chemist versus some eggs. That's right. My mum used to give me egg flips.
Yeah.
All the
They're
time.
great.
Yes,
Totally.
I know. So it teaches you, I think when you do low carb, it teaches you just to be more critical in the world around you, to understand you're just a little pawn you're getting used.
We are.
And don't be used.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We're part of this giant experiment of processed foods, and the food industry not particularly interested in our health. They're interested in the health of their bottom line, and they treat us like consumerism units.
Yes, absolutely. They're probably on a yacht, in the Caribbean, thrilled that we're buying their stuff. And so try not to buy it. And actually whole grains, like when I was a whole grain person, I knew whole grains were good, and I'd be trying to eat whole grains. Where are these whole grains I'm meant to be eating? And weren't they all just in boxes? They're all in cereals. That's where you get your whole grains, from some sort of industry. Where else do you get them? I don't know. So I'm very suspicious now of everything.
I think that's good. I think a bit of healthy suspicion. And do you remember how passionate you were at the start? I loved it. Like, you've had this conversion, your conversion moment. You can't unsee what you have seen, and you want the best for all of your beautiful people. And the elderly, this is an interesting one too, because they are at risk of sarcopenia. That is, muscle wastage is something, muscle loss can be a really significant problem for our elderly population, and they need to eat more protein. How would you go about helping your patients avoid sarcopenia?
Yes. Well, interestingly, most of my patients I think they'd be elderly, most of my people that I see. Gosh, well, I guess, it's easy, isn't it, really? I mean, people who say I don't like eggs, that's always a bit of a worry, because they are fabulous. And giving people permission to eat eggs. So often they're worried about cholesterol, so they're worried about eggs. So saying you can have as many eggs as you like, please eat eggs. And also even ham, because they're worried ham might kill them. And I do say go to the delicatessen and just go wild, because it's full of nutrients. And at your age, what are you worrying about? Just enjoy those foods. So getting permission to eat meat and eggs is often all they need. And maybe they used to eat lamb chops for breakfast.
Oh, such a good breakfast.
I don't know. My dad used to have lamb chops for breakfast, and then he had to eat birdseed. I remember him going, why do I have to eat birdseed for breakfast? Yeah, so I think that's how you go, yes, eat cheese, eat eggs, as much meat as you like. If you like lamb, eat lamb, rissoles, sausages, that's how you get it. It's just giving permission. Where you've been told it will kill you, and saying, actually, no, it will save you, and get away from the cereal.
Yes.
Orange juice.
I'd like to unpack how you help people with that a bit more. So people are worried about ham, they're worried about meat. What do you say to people who have these fears that, I need the protein, I know this, I don't want to lose my muscles, I don't want to be old and frail, I want to be old and not frail. How do you help them get over that?
Well, I tell them, look, we've been eating meat for millions of years, and it's highly unlikely that meat's the problem of what's going on at the moment. And it's very odd that anyone could blame meat for what's happening in our population, given that we've been eating meat for millions of years. So if you just use your common sense, just think back. We used to be wandering the fields, killing an animal and eating a bit of a vegetable. Get back to meat and veg. And I sometimes explain about how once we became an agricultural society, we didn't get healthier, we got shorter. Our teeth began to rot, bone disease, whereas the hunter-gatherers were taller. And if they didn't get stabbed, they lived a long life. So and once you go, oh, yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? That's what we evolved. That's what our DNA evolved, eating meat. It's so nutritious. It's beautifully absorbed. And the science telling us not to eat meat is just junk science. And many scientists who do not agree with that, it's just they're not in the, you don't hear from them. But there's so many studies out there saying that science is junk. It just doesn't reach the newspaper.
No. And I dare say that the food industry has a role to play in what science we do here, because they make money by value adding to food, and they can highly process something like Up and Go or Pediasure or Ensure. They make way more money if we buy that than if we just buy eggs. And I was listening to you then, talk about the hunter-gatherer lifestyle. It's like, if we go back to eating meat and veg, we can have like all the benefits of that hunter-gatherer lifestyle, but for most of us, without the risk of potentially being stabbed as quite as high. So it's like a win-win.
Exactly. There's actually this company. Have you heard of the people in Hungary that, I don't know, it's called Paleo Medicina. They've got a very strange name. They're in Hungary, and they get people who are really, really sick, so serious autoimmune diseases, and put them on this diet that is a diet they've based on what we used to eat. And they report great results. So it's carnivore. There's absolutely no plants. And they're quite interesting. I'm fascinated watching, they post on social media their results. But I think we need more meat, and we'd all be a lot healthier. But meat, if you just frame it, meat and veg, meat and salad, then people go, oh, yeah, what's wrong with that? Nothing. Not Pediasure, Ensure, packets of things. Why would that be better? It just makes sense.
And for the busy, stressed out parents with children with ADHD, it could be an easy sell to feed your kids Pediasure. They might be feeling guilty that they've got their kids on stimulant medication. They might just have really stressful mornings because of their children having ADHD, getting, difficult to get them out the door, and they're vulnerable. And this messaging, it's quite targeted to this, potentially really vulnerable population. So I'm sharing your anger. I really am. And yeah, smoothies are good for these kids. Just chuck an egg in it. My daughter doesn't even know that I do that.
I know. I think a chocolate milkshake would be better.
A chocolate, absolutely, it would be. Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's right. Ice cream would be better. I'm not saying have ice cream for breakfast. That is not what I'm saying. But
and it's got emulsifiers in it as well, which upset that mucus layer in the gut that protects the lining of the gut. That loss of that is associated with autoimmune diseases. So why would you want to be having an emulsifier with sugar and vegetable oil for breakfast? It's stunning that it's seen as, it's marketed to doctors. It's terrible. Anyway, you're waiting for the lawyer to write me a letter. Yeah.
Yeah, how dare you say that we should eat real food, and that perhaps eating real food is good for our metabolic health. I'm inclined to agree with you. Can I also, I'd like to pick your brain a bit about processed meats. So ham, and you said go mad at the delicatessen, which I love. I love that you said that. That's a very, I think a very useful command for people. Do you get people concerned about processed meats, and how do you unpack that for them?
That's a really good question, because I don't know if you knew that they wrote a letter to all the parents in the primary schools that ham was a carcinogen and not to put ham on the sandwiches. Now, again, that made me upset. Okay, so is it better to have Nutella and a little packet of chips and some tiny teddies in that little lunchbox, which is usually there? The ham's probably the only nutritious thing in the lunchbox. Some people call them party boxes. They're not lunch boxes anymore.
Yes.
It's just a party, isn't it? And you need a little bit of chocolate and a juice every day. So sugar, take out the ham. So I think when you weigh it up, ham is nutritious. We're eating a lot worse things. The science shows that the risk to an individual of eating these processed meats is tiny. And the benefits in this society with the junk that we eat, the ham's the least of your problems. So eat ham and be metabolically healthy. Go to Spain. Everyone loves the Mediterranean diet. What are they eating? They're eating ham, processed meats. That's all they are eating all the time. And we love the Mediterranean diet. So, and the science, there's that great series of papers in the Annals of Medicine about meat. If you go to the Nutrition Coalition website, they have it there. There are these scientists, and they discuss the evidence around meat. And the conclusion is, for an individual, there is nothing wrong with eating processed meat. The increased risk is so tiny.
Yes.
So, I mean, if someone wants me to, I'll give them that paper or refer them to the Nutrition Coalition website, which is fantastic. But you just got to stand back again and go, we're giving kids Pediasure, cornstarch, sucrose, emulsifiers, vegetable oils, and we're worrying about processed meats. I think they're the least of your worries.
I completely agree. And I guess more than once I've, looked in people's shopping trolley because I can't help it, Aldi and at various supermarkets, and I'll see all the processed food in there, and I'll look at the meat in there, and I'll be like, that is the processed meat. Even that is by far the most nutrient dense thing in that trolley. And if we're targeting that, and not the chips and not the chocolates and not the highly processed crackers filled with seed oils, then I think we are missing the point.
We so are. That's right. Don't eat meat. Be vegan and eat Oreos biscuits. It's just nonsense. It really drives me bananas. But I have to try and remain calm because it's exhausting.
Yeah, and being calm is good for your health.
So you get tired. I get sort of crazy and my blood pressure goes through the roof. So I have to practice deep breathing.
Yeah, do a few box breaths. It can be very good.
Yes, actually, what I want to mention, I've discovered this amazing app. It's called resonant breathing. Have you heard of resonant breathing?
Tell me more about resonant breathing.
Because this is another thing that I get really excited about at work. So if you do 10 breaths per minute, it activates your parasympathetic nervous system. So it's an app that just gives you do 4 breaths in, 6 breaths out. You just follow the app. You can be tense, angry, whatever. You just follow the app, do that breathing in, and it activates your parasympathetic nervous system by whatever the lungs are telling the heart, because, they work together. And I've had so many patients, I'll take their blood pressure, it's like 170 on 90. So I get out my phone and put the app on, and I get them to do the breathing for 5 minutes. And a guy the other day, it went from 170 to 110.
Whoa. Imagine if we had a pill that did that.
I know.
Make billions of dollars.
Get it quick. So yes, if any of your listeners have got high blood pressure or just want to learn how to relax without turning off your mind, because you just follow this little app, it naturally makes you relax. So I do it on the way to work. I play it on the way to work. But anyway, that's another one of my latest things.
No, it's so good for you. Like, our breath is our natural tranquilizer, because it's the only part of our fight or flight response or rest and digest response that we have conscious override of. You can't consciously change your blood pressure. You can't consciously change your heart rate. You can't consciously change, your pupils dilating, but you can consciously change your breath. So that's beautiful.
Okay. Well, there you go. Well, and the reason I discovered resonant breathing is because there was a paper in Nature that came out, last month, studying this resonant breathing. And they got people of different ages to do it, and they measured biomarkers for Alzheimer's disease. And then they got them to do the breathing, and a month later they repeated the bloods, and they had a placebo group that was doing another sort of breathing that was not fancy breathing. And the people doing the fancy breathing had a significantly lower of the marker of these Alzheimer's biomarkers. So that's what made me look up this breathing. And since then, I've just found it amazing for dropping people's blood pressure. So, yeah, a big plug for resonant breathing.
Absolutely. And it's that breathing longer out that you breathe in. That's really quite key to activating the parasympathetic nervous system. So that's cool. And having an app can be great because it can help you just get out of your head.
Yes, you can be tense and you don't have to be thinking, I have to relax. You just follow the app and it'll happen. Do you do that in your course? You probably teach breathing.
Yeah, definitely. We love doing breath work and different types of meditation techniques, or at simple relaxation techniques. Box breathing. I was taught box breathing by my daughter, that she did mindfulness at school, and you breathe in. It's actually rectangle breathing. So you breathe in for 4, breathe out for 7, breathe in for 4, breathe out for 7, and you sort of breathe around the oblong. Yeah, so good. Same thing. But I can see how having an app would be useful because you would just keep you focused.
Yes, you watch the lungs going up and the lungs going down in this person.
Yeah, I love it. That's good. See, all of these simple, powerful tweaks we can do.
I know. Yes.
Gorgeous. All right. Beautiful Dr. Penny Figtree. If people want to find you and find out more about you, where can they get this information?
Well, the best way would be my website, which, because I live in Port Macquarie, is called Low Carb PMQ. So you'd find me at Low Carb PMQ. I'm on Twitter as @Penelope Figtree, getting outraged.
So good on Twitter. Just follow her Twitter account, man. It's the best.
Twitter is fantastic. That's actually where I learned about resonant breathing, because someone posted that paper.
I love that you do Twitter. I'm not doing Twitter, but I love that I leave that to you. You're doing it very well.
Yeah, Lucy doesn't like it either. She says she gets upset. I just mute people. If they upset me, I mute them. So that's me.
Excellent. Low Carb PMQ.
Yeah, I've got a page, on Facebook. But anyway, Twitter's the best place, really.
All right. So we'll put your Twitter handle and Low Carb PMQ will be in the show notes, the links below, and you guys can find this fabulous human. Thank you so much, Dr. Penny Figtree. I've loved chatting to you today. Thank you for coming on the show and continue the great work, you fabulous low carb soldier.
You too. Bye, Dr. Mary.
See ya.
So, my lovely listeners, that ends this episode of Real Health and Weight Loss. I'm Dr. Lucy Burns.
And I'm Dr. Mary Barson. We're from Real Life Medicine. To contact us, please visit rlmedicine.com.
And until next time, thanks for listening. The information shared on the Real Health and Weight Loss podcast, including show notes and links, provides general information only. It is not a substitute, nor is it intended to provide individualized medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor can it be construed as such. Please consult your doctor for any medical concerns.